Let's take a look at the Week 13 AP Top 25 and react to it. And off the rip, I wanted to know two things. I wanted to know where BYU was going to fall to and where Tennessee was going to fall to. And then I had questions about who was going to move up based off of some really interesting and not insignificant victories. So Oregon stays at number 1, even though they got a scare from Wisconsin. They won that game 16-13. They're 11-0. Ohio State stays at number 2. They're 9-1. They got a good enough win for me, not for Ohio State fans, against Northwestern at Wrigley Field. That was fun. Texas had a real defensive performance. I would argue its best defensive performance of the season against Arkansas on the road. They won that game 20-10. It got tight toward the end, but the thing for you to know is that Pete Kwiatkowski's defense was outstanding. 231 total yards allowed, 6 sacks in that game, as they are looking like having to play A&M for what might be a trip to the SEC championship in what is, I think, one of the coolest and most hated rivalries in all of sports. I mean, right up there next to Ohio State and Michigan, I got to go with Texas A&M. I would love to see that game, by the way, because I ain't got no dog in that fight. And I love to see two people that don't like each other fight each other. That's just fun. To say nothing of how we all might have picked a side when Jake Paul fought Mike Tyson. Number 4, Penn State. They stay at 9-1. They beat the brakes off of Purdue, who ain't nobody. Indiana at number 5. That means number 2 versus number 5 is going to be this weekend. That's Ohio State hosting Indiana. Ought to be outstanding. I'm excited about it. Indiana is finally going to get to say whether or not, hey, look, we are a better football team than Penn State. Stop treating us as if we're not. We're undefeated. They are not. Notre Dame moves up 2 spots to number 6 off of their really good win against Virginia. They had 5 takeaways in that game, and it was never really that close, even as you had a bunch of 3-and-outs to start the game. Soon as they got the ball rolling, Jeremiah Love ends up with 137 rush yards, 2 TDs. Alabama moves to number 7, 2 spots up. I don't think that has much to do with beating up Mercer as much as it does what Georgia and Tennessee brought to us. So Georgia gets a very important win. I would argue its most important win of the season against Tennessee at home at Sanford. They stay at 9-2, or they move to 8-2, excuse me. And I think they beat Georgia Tech. They beat UMass. Is it UMass? They play nobody. Like, that's the thing. I've already forgotten the nobodies that they play toward the end of the season, and then they're probably in the college football playoff. So Bama and Georgia might box each other out, but we'll see how the rest of this falls. Number 9, Ole Miss. Okay, cool. They were idle last week. They're coming back. Tennessee stopped 4 spots to 10. I dropped them much further than that, mostly because I still haven't seen a working passing offense. And not for nothing, but that Tennessee defense that I thought was good could not get home. No sacks, just 2 tackles for loss, no turnovers, right? Georgia was able to just pick them up, roll them up, and do what it needed to do down the field. 340 yards. They gave up passing, 346 to Carson Beck, who had looked cheeks up until that point. Miami at number 11, they move up a spot after being idle. Boise State goes down 14-0, comes back, win 42-21 against San Jose State. They clinch a spot in the Mountain West Championship with a win this weekend. Southern Methodist is at 9-1. They're undefeated in ACC play. They beat Boston College 38-28. They look like they're going to punch their ticket to the ACC Championship in year 1. Play against Miami or Clemson. We'll see. BYU falls 7 spots off the close loss to Kansas late last night at 9-1. Their undefeated season comes to an end, but they still are in position to play for the Big 12 Championship. A&M at 8-2 is number 15. Right now, we're looking at A&M being atop the standings with Texas up there, it looks like. And A&M could win an SEC championship, like as wild as that seems to be. Colorado at 16, they move up 2 spots in the AP. I moved them up further. I love that win they had against Utah, 49-24. Most points scored by a team against Utah since 2014. They also have had a dynamic and outstanding defense. They were able to get home. They got something like 34, 33 sacks this season. They can break their single-season sack record for a defense, and Shedeur Sanders can set the single-season passing record for TDs over there in school history. And then Travis Hunter, only Travis Hunter and Champ Bailey have had 3 interceptions and 40 catches for the last 40 years. That's just wild. Clemson at number 17. They fought back late to beat a good Pitt team. A Pitt team started 7-0, is now 7-3. Army is undefeated. Their huge game this weekend against Notre Dame. They dropped 2 spots after being idle. Like, I don't know what that's about. South Carolina moves up 4 off the win against Missouri. We've been talking well about Missouri, and South Carolina decided, okay, cool, we're going to let Lenore Sellers cook, and he did. We saw a different Lenore Sellers than we've seen. That dude went for 353 and 5 TDs through the air. Wild. Tulane moves up 5 spots off of blanking Navy 35-0. Their first shutout of an FBS opponent since 1997. They're 9-2 undefeated in conference play. They're going to play Army in the American Championship game. Arizona State's at 21. Great win against Kansas State, knocking them out of the top 25 completely, putting themselves back in. Huge turnaround for Kenny Dillingham from 2023 to 2024. Iowa State dispatches Cincinnati. They moved to 8-2, stay in this thing. UNLV, they get a win late last night. They move into the top 25 again. Illinois at 24. Washington State, they're at 25. I ended up knocking them out because I thought that Memphis at 9-2 had already won 9 games, and I like to reward teams that played. But Wazoo losing to San Diego State was not on my bingo card. That said, I'm still thinking that Memphis is in a really good spot, and they in Missouri round out your number 26. Well, number 26 if you're Missouri, number 27 if you're Memphis. Then it would have been Kansas State, Syracuse, Louisville, Pitt, LSU, Louisiana, Vanderbilt, Colorado State, Duke, James Madison, and Georgia Tech. So that is the top 25 there. Off the rip, I think Colorado's got room to move up here, man. Like, I like them in this spot because it doesn't matter for Colorado where they are ranked as long as they are ranked. And you will be ranked as the presumptive favorite to win the Big 12 championship. And even if you are ranked at number 16, number 18, number 25 at the end of this thing, all you have to do is be one of the 4 highest ranked Power 4 or 5 highest ranked champions, right? So is there a realm of possibility where Boise State can edge them out for one of those top 4 spots? Yeah, but I just don't see it happening because, well, we're going to compare strength to schedule, and that's going to be that. However, that would be interesting to find out that the committee ranks an Army who might be undefeated at the end of this thing ahead of Colorado, or the Big 12 champion if it were BYU. That would be interesting. It's in the realm of possibility. But to get into the playoff, all you got to do is win your championship if you're Colorado. So win the Big 12 championship, and then we can argue about seeding. But I would have a hard time seeing or even taking a committee seriously that might rank Boise State ahead of Colorado, though I can see an argument for Army. If they get a win against Notre Dame this weekend and they go undefeated, that would be interesting. What would really suck is they win that conference championship and then they lose to Navy in the Army-Navy game to end the season, and then we're all going to be looking at these rankings like, maybe we should flip Colorado or the Big 12 champion for that matter with Army and go from there. But if your Army, take care of Notre Dame and then make this hard for everybody, including myself, on how you're going to rank them toward the end of the season as we go into rivalry week next week. But this one is about Ohio State, Indiana. It's about Army and Notre Dame, and it is about Kansas and Colorado. Those are the 3 huge games that I'm going to be watching this weekend. Let me know. What do you think of the comments below? And if you like the channel, consider subscribing to it. We do this thing every single day.